every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
You need the right people in the right place at the right time. And sometimes you have the right people in the right place, but at the wrong time.
I've got to keep going forward. I've got to keep looking for revenue streams. I've got to keep looking for growth, keep looking at new ways of doing things.
But, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development program I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated. Yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm Granger Forson, and this week I've been speaking with Jen Le Marinel, who is the founder of Wildfire Walks. Wildfire Walks is a training and coaching company that helps the busy women leaders learn more about themselves as business owners and managers through the medium of spending time in nature. This is unlike any other business we've featured on ScaleUp Radio, but there is still so much that is relevant to all business owners, no matter the industry. We talk about Jen's corporate background and how she has now found herself sleeping in the woods with other women business leaders. We also cover realizing that you and your energy can be your business's biggest asset and it needs looking after. How beneficial business coaching can be, not just to your business life, but to your personal life too. And how being outside can change your mindset and approach to business leadership within your business. You'll hear from listening to this conversation just how passionate Jen is about the aims of her business and her goal to help others with their businesses. This is one of the most valuable episodes we've had for some time. Let's go over and hear from Jen. So, hello, Jen Le Marinel. Welcome to a ScaleUp Radio podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure, thanks, Granger. So, hi, I'm Jen Le Marinel, and I'm the founder of Wildfire Walks, and I'm an ex-corporate wild soul coach, trainer, and guide. And my passion is helping busy women leaders who are so busy being good at what they do that they've forgotten who they are. And I do that through a combination of coaching and taking them out into the wild on wild retreats to help them basically to help them reconnect with who they really are, get clarity about what it is they really want, and then rediscover the courage to go out and do that, all through helping them reconnect to their inner wild woman.
Wow, that's awesome. No, that's really good. I love that from the first moment that we've met in terms of that idea and what you do. So take us a bit more. You talk about busy female leaders. Yeah. Why then? How does that help them in terms of doing stuff? You talk about reconnecting. Take us a bit more detail about that.
Yeah, well, a lot of it comes from my background, which was in corporate. So I was one of those busy, successful women who was kind of climbing the career ladder, doing everything I should be doing, and kind of having that little niggle that something was missing. And I see that now with a lot of women I work with, and when I say business leaders, often they are, fairly high up in corporate, or they are business owners. I'm working with a lot more sort of women who own their own businesses these days, and they've been pretty successful, but to get to a certain level, and you probably know this, Granger, from the people you work with, business owners you work with, right? It's not easy being a business, and often you find yourself working, doing all the do, and so often we kind of lose perspective on what it is we really want from life and why we're doing what we're doing. So that's why I talk about being so busy, being good at what we do. Society and culture kind of tells us to be a particular way, and all the should be's and should do's and all of this. And so I work with women to kind of take a step back from that. And a lot of women, a phrase they often hear is, life is great, but I've got the house, I've got the money, I've got the business, I've got all this, and something's missing. So I guess what I do is take them into an environment, out in the woods predominantly, where all of that external stuff doesn't matter anymore. Sitting around a fire with a group of women in the woods, the masks come off. Like you don't, doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a CEO or a stay-at-home mom or a business owner or employed, like the fire and the trees don't matter, right? And there's something about taking all those external layers off and reconnecting to something really primal deep inside of ourselves that helps us reconnect to who we truly are. And it's really my belief that when we know who we really are and what really drives us, we can thrive in all areas of our lives, our businesses, our relationships, our hobbies, everything we do. So yeah, I guess if there was one passion of mine, it's about helping people reconnect to who they really are. And my way of doing that is by taking them out in the wild, really, and combining that with sort of my various background in different coaching modalities.
So you talk about reconnecting with people who they are, the things that drives them. So how did you come to that as your why? Where did that come from? You talked about corporate growing up and moving up through the ladder, etc. That's an interesting one. So where did your why come from?
Yeah, great question. It's funny. I remember being a little girl, and I would always be off running in the fields, getting muddy, eating blackberries and hazelnuts. And I used to have this dream that I could talk to plants and animals, and I could be like this medicine woman or something. And I didn't know much about, indigenous tribes or anything back then. there was this part of me that just knew that I wanted to do stuff outdoors. And I'd always be camping outside and going on adventures. And then when I got into school and college, and I was an A-star student, I was very academic. I was a teacher's pet and really thrived through school, and kind of just followed this path it felt like it was laid out with me. I went to mathematics and studied university. No, hang on. I went to university, studied mathematics, got a first class honours degree, spent a year in France as part of that. And then I took a year out and travelled and worked around the world for a little bit. And then I got what I thought was dream job in a FTSE 100 financial services company, trained as an actuary, so that was like 15 more exams over 4 years, and just worked my way up. And it was kind of what was expected of me, not in a it wasn't my parents putting pressure on. I can't, it was just the done thing. And it was exciting to get a pay rise and a promotion. And then I was managing a team. And then I got to go to London and Dublin to meet with various, financial people. And I was just sort of going up and up and up. And then I bought the dream house. Well, it wasn't the dream house, but it was, a beautiful house. And everything was perfect on paper. And then one day it basically just crashed. I burnt out, ended up being signed off work with depression. And it was like my life just fell apart. And it's a classic sort of burnout story. But thankfully I worked with a coach and did a lot of inner work at that point. And she really helped me reconnect with my dream of, helping people by working with them outdoors. And I didn't really know where it came from, but I just had this dream of working with people outdoors. And to cut a long story short, I ended up leaving my relationship, and about a year and a half after that, I left my job and with this dream of starting my own business. And I still don't know exactly what it was back then, but I decided to take some time out, and I ended up walking from Land's End to John O'Groats solo with a backpack on my back, and just kind of knew that that chunk of time was really going to help me understand more about myself and what I wanted to do in the world. And when do you get, to take 3.5 months out, right? I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it.
Yep.
So I think that walk, I mean, it was such a reference point for me, and it always has been, because there's so much. It's like, wow, if I can do that, I can do anything, right? And it was kind of during that walk that I really got a sense of the power of being outside, of walking, of rediscovering a strength that you didn't necessarily know you had. For me, I didn't know physically I could do that. And I learned a lot about myself on the way. And it was like, gosh, what would it be like to give people the experience, and women in particular, the experience of knowing they are far stronger than they realize, and really pushing them to the edges, not in a hard pushing way, but in a really supportive, let's see what's possible when you take yourself out of your comfort zone, out of the should do's and should be's of society, of culture, of your jobs, of your families, of the labels we put on ourselves. And sort of the rest from there is history, really. I mean, I know we'll dive into a bit more about how it went from an idea through to where it is now, but that was probably all kind of the driving force behind it, like a passion for nature and being outside, and then knowing what it's like to be successful but burning out and wanting more from life. And then that journey of discovery, and how powerful coaching can be, how powerful adventure can be. And so it's like weaving all of those bits in and offering that to the women I work with. Yeah,
that's a fantastic story in terms of how it comes together, and you finding that why. Interesting, you talk about coaches too. For me, I found in my life that books have become my coach. I didn't like reading when I was at school. English language was not one of my easiest subjects, but I found in later life reading books and finding other inspiring things had helped me gel the structure together. And for me, my passion in life is growing people. And that came from a book called 2 Second Lean, which is one of my most inspiring coaches in terms of people that do that. So, having a coach and finding a coaching method that sparks with you really does help. And you found that, and that fantastic walk
and
helped
books
you.
Books can be so powerful. Yeah, and books can be really powerful. There's certainly been, many books on my adventure that have really, on my journey that have, it's been some of the best coaches ever.
Brilliant. So you've got this fantastic idea. You know what you want to do and achieve, okay? But as we talked about, you need a business to be able to deliver that. You need a vehicle to do that. So when did you start the business, and how did you get about starting that?
Yeah, so officially I started it when I got back from my walk, which was October 2017, which was 5 years ago now. Gosh, in fact, I'm nearly coming up to my 5-year anniversary. That's exciting. And at first it was kind of like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I've just got to start doing it. And it was this, I'd done some great training that kind of gave me the confidence to at least just start offering. And I just started offering one-day events, which were a mixture of sort of indoor and outdoor stuff. And, I had some good cheerleaders who supported me. And it was really just putting it out there before I felt ready in many ways. It was just like offering, like, I'm going to do this thing. Anyone up for that? And, people were interested. So they booked and came along, and, I didn't charge very much when I started. And it was like, wow, this works. And then I started retraining as a coach to bring those skills in. And from there, I started focusing a lot more on the one-to-one coaching to build up my experience of actually supporting women in that way. And certainly the first sort of year or so was challenging. I was building up skills. I was trying to work out all the things that you have to do as a newbie business owner, and the finances. I'd left my corporate job, which paid well, because of the ending my relationship. There was a lot of financial stuff there. So whilst I wasn't completely destitute, I didn't have huge amounts of resources behind me. So, a lot of people say, don't leave job without some resources behind you, and I did that. But I had enough just to cover the bare minimum. But I actually ended up getting a part-time job. But I worked in an organic farm shop and cafe, so it felt like really aligned with my values. A lot of people were like, "Why don't you go back to corporate?" It's like, no, I want something that's more aligned with my values, even though it doesn't pay nearly as well. And really following the earn to learn and learn to earn. I can't remember which way, earn to learn. So actually I was learning and mingling with amazing people on this amazing land, which was paying me far more than the money, right? But it helped pay the bills. And then I ended up living in a yurt for the summer because we sold a house. And then I basically did all sorts of things for a couple of years to minimize rent. I house sat for a year. I went and house sat in house in Cornwall for 4 months for free, and then spent another like 6 months house sitting while trying to sort of fit my coaching clients around it to build up a little bit of income and keep my expenditure low. And then I had to take the big leap of actually committing to renting a flat again. And that was really like, right, we've got to make the business really work now because you have actual serious bills to pay. And that's when I started offering, and that was just before lockdown, helpfully, but that's when I started offering my events again. And that's when my business started to morph a bit more into what it looks like today, which is more retreat based. So these wild retreats. And that's taken a lot more investment in myself. So, I've invested in sort of coaches and business masterminds. It's involved sort of me just putting myself out there, talking about what I do. And really, it's been a process of do something, get feedback, do something, get feedback. I'm a big believer in doing something before you necessarily feel ready. Like the temptation is I must have this qualification, I must learn this and do this and, all of this and have all my ducks in a row before I start offering. And it's like, no, start offering and then you'll get feedback about what works, who your ideal clients are, who's actually attracted to what you're doing, what I love to do. And that's sort of really helped me shape the programs I run now. Often it's the first group of participants. I'm very honest. I'm like, you're my guinea pigs for this program. I've not done it before. Like, what do you like? What do you not like? And, I'm now just offering my 3rd year of my year-long program, which was something I always had in my vision that I wanted to do this year-long program tied in with the seasons. And the first year, it was like just a group of some of my most loyal clients that had been to one-off retreats with me. And they just, jumped in and said, this sounds amazing. And we kind of co-created it a bit, and it gets better every year. That was a very long answer. I can't even remember exactly what the question was, but that's kind of how I got to where I am today.
Yes. No, that's great. This is really sort of how you got going and got started in terms of that. And business models do evolve through taking them to the market. Yeah, some people can spend far too long trying to perfect something that actually, when you take to market, can actually not be what the marketplace wants. And some of the largest businesses in the world have actually started off doing one thing and totally morphed into something else and became very successful because they've got that feedback from the marketplace in terms of their understanding. So and you've demonstrated that absolutely brilliantly in terms of doing that. So let's just talk a bit about your market. You've talked about some loyal customers in terms of doing those people that joined you. So you talk about busy women, busy business women owners. What is a sort of ideal client? How do you define them, and how do you sort of try and engage with them?
So if I were to sort of draw my ideal client, she's kind of late 30s through to early 50s, maybe, like generally in that 40s kind of stage, which is often a big turning point for women. And it's like a point where, my ideal client tends to, like I say, have got to a certain level. So she's worked really hard to get her business up and running. It's running successfully. She's probably got a few team members. And she, it's successful, but she's kind of still like very in the business and struggles to get headspace. Or perhaps has been able to step away from the business and it's running without her, but she's now a bit like, oh, so now what do I do? So there's often this stage I find where, women have got to a certain point in their business, and then their children are getting sort of older, or perhaps they've chosen not to have children. Quite a few of my clients don't have children, actually, and there's that room for adventure. Children have left the nest, or they're a bit more self-sufficient, and it's like, oh, what about some adventure for me now? I've put all this effort into my family or my business, and I've lost who I am. I've lost what brings me joy. And a lot of the women, obviously one of the things I do, other than I do some one-to-one coaching, but the majority of what I do is based around these retreats out in the wild. And a lot of the women, they love nature, but they wouldn't necessarily say they're overly outdoorsy. They certainly wouldn't define themselves as keen campers, or, a lot of women are like, you want me to camp? And they tend to like the idea of it, most of them, but they haven't, they wouldn't be experienced campers. But there's that desire to, I'd love to spend more time out in nature, but I don't know what to do out there, or I don't feel confident out in the woods on my own, or I'd love to learn how to forage, to know what I can eat out there. And but the main thing is, they wouldn't do it alone. They don't feel confident to be out there alone, and they certainly wouldn't know how to, go camping or go hiking when necessarily on their own. And then the other thing that tends to sort of be reflective of the women I spend time that come on my retreats is that they're seeking that sense of community and connection, like with each other, with other women. Like often women who have gotten to a certain level of success in business or in corporate have kind of a fear of being with other women, because of the, there's often a lot of backstabbing and bitchiness and competition in sort of some of the older systems and structures, right? And it's about, I don't know, I just believe that there's something inside of most women that longs for that sense of connection, and for me, that's that primal time when women would gather around the fire and support each other. So that a lot of women come to me because they're looking for that sense of, making friends that are connected at a more deep level, and having the fun of working together and supporting each other.
So, in the marketplace, are there other companies like yourself? Are you unique? What makes you say, first of all, what's the marketplace like? And then what do you think is different about you?
Yeah, what I see out there is there are lots of coaches, and lots of great coaches all doing different things, right? And there's a lot of leadership development stuff, and there's a lot of bushcrafty stuff. You can go on hiking stuff and learn to light fires and, all sorts of things like that. And they're all great, right? What I don't see a lot of, and I think this is where I sit kind of on the bridge, is bringing the two worlds together, like bringing personal development and leadership development and self-awareness into the wild. So I am not out to turn people into die-hard outdoorsy people, female Bear Grylls or Ray Mears or whatever. Yes, we learn skills, like I teach women how to light fire and to use an axe and to use knives, because I believe that really gives a sense of empowerment to a woman, and it's a lot of fun. But, I don't think any of the women that come to me are looking to, turn into, one of my clients called it hedge munching hippie. I verge on the hedge munching hippie sometimes. However, I've also got, a foot in corporate world. I know what it's like to exist in the corporate world. And a lot of the outdoorsy offerings aren't geared towards people who don't want to be in a tent, or are scared of spiders, or know what it's like to exist in that corporate world. So I sort of bring that business, from corporate and running my own business into that nature connection side. And then a lot of the coaching and leadership stuff doesn't do stuff out in the wild. I have people camping out in Dartmoor, going for hikes, swimming in streams, learning to light fire, foraging, and you don't get a lot of that in the personal development world, right? So I like to think I sort of sit on this bridge between the two worlds.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting in terms of that bridge between the two different styles, but bringing them together and focusing on giving women the empowerment and the ability to see that they can do this at the same time, and developing their their leadership thinking and their own personal thinking. I think that's really good.
Yeah, it's like the power. It gets me every single time I see a woman make fire for the first time. There's something that she grows about 2 inches, and the beam on her face, and there's this sense, you just see her kind of, I know there's not video on this, but you see her kind of like grow, and there's this real sense of empowerment, and that carries through into her life. And it's hard to explain why, but all of these, whether it's making fire, whether it's learning to split a log with an axe, whether it's camping out one night under the stars, which we tend to only do in my sort of advanced programs, but or swimming in a stream, a wild stream on Dartmoor for the first time. All of these experiences that are like slightly outside of a comfort zone or are very practically empowering, they ripple out into the rest of her life. It's I can't describe it, but it's phenomenal to see, and really, really incredibly rewarding. Yeah.
So we talk about the scale up journey. So it starts off with the individual, with the idea and the structure, and then moving on to the 3 to 5 employees type role in terms of business. And in between is the valleys of death, where you get stuck because you're not designed the business to be successful in terms of what we need to do. So take us through, where are you in terms of currently in your business growth? How many employees do you have?
Yeah. So currently it's just me in terms of employees. Yeah. But I'm at that stage of knowing where I've got to expand that. So this year, for the first time, I pay an assistant to come and help me on retreats. And that has been incredible to have that support and also that expertise. So she is now kind of in the business as a freelancer. So she comes and helps on retreats and things. And she's also going to start doing some sales for me and some coaching potentially, because she's also a brilliant coach herself. So that's kind of on a practical side. And then I've got a couple of other people who are, again, former clients who've been on my programs who are going to start coming and assisting on some of my other retreats. But yeah, I'm at that stage of getting support in terms of, I'm not at the stage of employing anybody yet. And that's partly down to how I like to work and how the type of people I tend to attract. I tend to work on a much more of a freelancer basis because of the structure and cyclical rhythm of my business, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. But yeah, I'm at that stage of getting admin support and marketing support and things like that, because for me, I'm at the stage of wanting to do more of what I'm good at, which is out in the woods, holding space, working directly with clients one-to-one. So getting the support with running the business means I can be more available to do that. And another aspect for me is my business is quite cyclical because I work with the seasons. Not many people want to be out camping in December and January, but also I try and structure my business around my energy and the seasons as well. I'm very sensitive to the seasonal changes, and I believe a lot of women in particular, all of us are actually, but particularly women. So one of the things I sort of preach, as it were, and practice is, going quiet a little bit over winter, actually taking the time to hibernate a little bit and rest and replenish so that we can come out more fully in spring. And I do this on an annual basis. So I do very little in December and January. But my spring, is very, very busy. My autumn is very, very busy. And then in summer, I tend to take a little bit more of time off as well. But then monthly, with my monthly cycle, my energy really varies over the month. So I try and structure my business around that. So for me, having the support in my business means that even if I'm in a down period or after a string of retreats when I really need to rest and replenish, I can have someone else doing some promotion for me, doing some sales calls, doing some, coaching and things for me. So my aim is to have the support in the business so I can work with my energy levels, really. And I want to encourage the people that work for me to do that too. My business is all about working with the seasons and connecting more deeply with nature. So I run my business in that way too. And that's not always easy in the modern world, which doesn't tend to work on a seasonal basis.
Yes.
But it's, if I could change one thing in the world, that would be it, that we'd actually pay more attention to the seasons and our energy and not try and be full out all of the time.
So the business has been developing, and you're taking on people to help you to grow the delivery function of it and get support around that. So just to go back a bit, you've talked about the experimentation that you did and the changes. So what things didn't work for you? What's sort of gone wrong?
Oh, good question. Tricky. I think it's not necessarily that things have gone wrong. It's more tweaking them so they can be better. I'm trying to think if there have been any disasters. I mean, there have certainly been retreats that I've not run because I didn't fill them, or didn't get in fact, my main thing is, in the past, I've not been very good at looking far enough ahead to be promoting and stuff. So by the time, it was like 6 weeks out from a retreat, and it's like, oh, does anyone want to come on a retreat? They can't get 3 days off, with 6 weeks notice type thing. It has happened, but I'm at the stage now where I'm having to, so in July this year, I had next year's calendar drawn out and dates going in the diary. Like, my calendar for next year is already quite scary, but I have to plan that far ahead. And start filling retreats and programs and things far enough ahead that people can get it in their diary. So that's one big learning for me is, and that's from, running an events-based business, you've got to look a bit further ahead, I think. But back from that, it's like, where have I got to do the marketing for all of those things? And for example, I'm off to the Kalahari for 3 weeks shortly. And I did the same a few years ago. And it's like, gosh, if my business is going to be running, I need to work backwards from that and what needs to be happening while I'm away. So certainly that forward thinking and planning. I'm not a natural planner, but it has really helped me in my business. In terms of some of the tweaks, like the first year I ran Be Wild, which is my year-long program, it was literally like, I'm going to just put these dates in, we're going to do it. I think we're going to move between different venues and we'll see how it goes. And it worked really, really well, but I wanted to dive even more deeply into the personal development side of it. So I brought a lot more of the coaching into it. I added a venue. So we did a module down in Cornwall. So we actually had a coastal version and we went foraging for seaweed and we spent a day with wolves, which was incredible, but also a very deep personal learning experience for, like, it's not just hanging out with wolves, it's actually what can they teach you about yourself, and where you fit in life and in groups. And it was mind-blowing. We went down to the Dog and Wolf Development Centre in Cornwall and it was incredible. But it was also, having that additional venue really kind of gave us this sense of a tribe, being nomadic and traveling throughout the year. So yeah, it's been tweaks like that really, and getting feedback about what people want to be doing, what they want to be trying, what skills they want to be learning. But I don't think there've been any disasters, thankfully.
Good, interesting. Yeah, and it's interesting how you just really focused on learning from it and improving it and making the experiences, more beneficial and adding value and growing it and doing that. So,
and always asking for feedback and.
Yeah. I mean, so one of your things is helping, the busy businesswoman to really slow down and have that time to think and reflect. So we're getting rid of helping to deal with the overwhelm. Do you get those periods that you talked about, balancing your energy levels throughout the months and the years? Do you get those moments of overwhelm and oh my god? And what do you? Definitely. How do you manage that? That's really interesting.
Yeah, I still do. I'm human. I practice what I preach, and I still get it wrong sometimes, and not even get it wrong, but. Being a business owner, especially in the days where it's just you, there's a lot of balls to juggle, right? And yeah, sometimes, especially if I've been away on retreat, September was a very, very busy month for me of running retreats and VIP days with clients and all of this, and I didn't have a lot of time to focus on my business. So I got out of that, was really, really tired from holding all of that, and then it was like, oh gosh, now I need to do all this business planning. So there are times where it's like, whoa. And I think the way I deal with that is first recognizing that it happens, and there will always be periods that will be busy and overwhelming. The key for me is knowing where there's light at the end of the tunnel and making sure to put in the diary, the light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm really, really fierce with my diary management. And, you know, I'll look ahead and I'll be like, right, I've got a really busy time of retreats that month. I'm going to take that next week and I'm not going to see any clients. I'm not going to put anything in. I'm just going to rest, because my energy is my biggest asset. And I've had quite a few health problems over the past, so I know what it's like to be fully wiped out. So I do what I can to manage my energy and look after my health. So really like putting in recovery time after busy periods. And also knowing if I'm really, really busy and I'm really struggling, it's like I've just got to stop. And actually by stopping and replenishing, I'm going to have much more energy to tackle whatever needs to be tackled. And having great people, having like friends that I can call up and be like, at, and they can just remind me, you know, what it is I need to do. And often, ironically, it's get out for a walk, get out in nature. And that might sound crazy, but I spend a lot of my time outside, but often it's for other people, like holding other people outside. And one of the quickest ways for me to get back to myself and to establish sort of a feeling of centeredness and groundedness and clear thinking is to get outside. So there's so many times, like my friends or, you know, my business mentor or coach will say, when was the last time you just went and hung out in the woods? And it's like, oh yeah, you know, actually it has been a little while. So it's like, right, get yourself to the woods for the night, or go out for a walk, or whatever it is, go foraging. And that really brings me back to myself really, really quickly. But even though I know it, even though I teach it, the importance of having someone else reflect it back to you and go, you're not going crazy, you just haven't had a day off, or, you know, you've got a lot you're thinking about at the moment, or, you know, when did you last get out? So powerful. But yeah, it's always, you know, practicing what we preach, right? It's the things I teach my clients that I most need for myself as well.
Yes, very true. Yes. So we look at with our clients, we look at strategy, we look at execution, we look at people, and we also look at cash. So, you know, you've talked a lot about your image and the strategy. You've talked a lot about actually finding the right people through freelancing that you do. It's interested in terms of, you know, the lifeblood of every business is the cash flow. So how do you manage, you know, the cash? How do you keep on top of it and understand where you are with it?
Yeah. Oh, really good question. And it's something I'm changing slightly at the moment, actually, because one of the challenges of being event-based and very seasonal is that I tend to get a lot of cash in big chunks. You know, for example, promoting my year-long program, that's a big chunk of my income potentially coming in all at once. And my business sort of coach pulled me up on this the other day, because it was like, I was like, oh, if I get people paying in installments, then that's, you know, money each month. And I was like, yay, great. And she actually challenged me on this, because she was like, well, actually, if you get the money up front, you can then choose what to do with it, and you can use it wisely, and you can then pay yourself over the year, right? So I'm starting to look at that a bit more. But certainly management of, I mean, it helps that I'm a bit of a finance geek. You know, my background was as an actuary in financial management. I love spreadsheets. So there's still that part of me that's very alive and kicking. So I do geek out a bit. But I use Starling as my bank, and they're incredible. You know, the app, it's all banking by app, and you can like create little spaces with different different pots of money, so I can transfer money into my pot. So, you know, when I get paid, I can put something aside for tax right away. I can attribute it to a particular program. If it's someone paying me, you know, a lump sum for a program, I can put it there. So it's not there being spent. It's there, you know, to pay for you know, I put money aside for venues. I put money aside for my assistants and things like that. So when I get like people paying in full, and I encourage them to, and, you know, I give them a bonus for paying in full, I then allocate, you know, what that money is going to be used for. And, you know, starting to, you know, not just for the program, but for things like reinvesting in the business, investing in training for myself, you know, rainy days, reserves and things like that. So I've got lots of pots behind the scenes where my money goes to. And sort of mapping out, you know, I'm very good every quarter. I will map out, what are my money goals? Whilst I'm not driven by money, like you say, cash is the lifeblood of a business, right? So it's like, how much do I actually need? How much have I got? What do I need to be bringing in? So I'm always sort of keeping an eye on, how things are going. And yeah, there's always a bit of a pinch point over winter when I'm not, I don't tend to take on new coaching clients over winter. I don't do VIP days over winter. I just certainly don't run retreats over winter. So it's all, looking forward to the next year, and I might be bringing in money, but it's for things that are happening next year. So I'm kind of at that stage of bringing in money at the moment before I'm delivering. And that's getting to the point where it rolls now. And, each year I'll be selling stuff for the following year. But yeah, keeping an eye on it, knowing my figures, knowing what needs to be put aside, and how to manage that, really. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. One of the things that we talk about is a process called Profit First by Mike Gallowitz.
Yeah.
And you're talking in very similar terms of that type of structure, and that's similar to what I do. I use Starling and I use my spaces, and I put money aside, and
so powerful.
And one of the extra bits he talks about is doing what they call a drip account. So when you paid big lump sums up front, you put it all to one side, and then you actually drip it into your income account on a monthly basis in terms of doing that. So you divide it by the number of months it's for, and then you just feed that in, and then you then manage that money in terms of then where it needs to go in terms of by pots. So, that's what I need to get better at, is the paying myself regularly. In months where there is lots coming in, I'm better at paying myself regularly, but have to admit, in the tighter moments, it's like, how much do I actually need to take out? But I do the same in my personal account. I've got lots of pots, so I know all of my money has a purpose, and that's worked really well the last couple of years. Then the next really important thing, so you've got a very good understanding of money and the structure of that, very, very good. So the other bit is then finding your clients. So we've talked about, you need to get them a year in advance almost, and that's what you're trying to get to in terms of. So what are good marketing strategies do you use to find your clients?
Yeah. So the main two ways currently that I tend to find my clients are social media. So I'm very active on Facebook. That's where I'm most active. And also getting more active on LinkedIn, because a lot of my ideal clients hang out there professionally. So I kind of get them on the personal level on Facebook, and on the professional level on LinkedIn. And then a lot of word of mouth and referrals. A lot of people find me because they've heard someone else that's worked with me or been on my course, and they're like, oh my God, you've got to do this course. So that's my two main kind of focuses. And in terms of sort of the marketing, I'm very honest about like who I am and how I live my life and things like that. I don't do a lot of scheduled posts. I do a lot of just heartfelt musings. I muse a lot. There'll be a subject and I'll just be like, ooh, and I'll just share my perspective on it. Or often I'm out sharing my adventures, and a lot of people come because they're attracted by that sense of adventure, which is what I'm offering through my business on the one level. And then a lot of sharing from event retreats that I do run, sharing a lot of those, a lot of testimonials and things. There's certainly more I could be doing, and I keep meaning to get my newsletter. I have a newsletter list, and I do send out the occasional newsletter. I'm trying to get a bit better at doing that, sharing tips and foraging ideas, and tips of living a more sort of empowered and thriving life.
Okay.
And sort of through networking and things like that, which also comes into the referrals, connecting with people and finding people who share my clients. Like I work quite a lot with some accountants and financial advisors, because they tend to work with my ideal clients as well. But yeah, a lot of it comes from word of mouth and sort of getting to know me via me on social media, really.
Excellent. Well, I've got a couple more things to just explore. So I just want to go back to the sort of coaching life inspiring industry that you work in. I put the word inspiring in there because I think that's a really important word that describes you in terms of doing it. So that industry, what drives you crazy about that industry? What would you want to change if you really?
Oh my God, so many things. There are a lot of amazing coaches out there, and I'm friends with a lot of them, and there's some amazing work. And the two things that probably annoy me is, one is pain point marketing, like making you feel not good enough, like, oh, you could be even better, or get more results, or earn 10 figures every month, with my proven program, and all of the kind of the, should want more, or you're not good enough if you're not doing this, and all of that sort of stuff. Just hate it. And I think that sort of thing drives a lot of, we see it on a global scale, right? There's this fear-led, pain-led kind of approach to so much. But don't get me started on that rant. And then the other thing, especially at the moment, is there's so much noise out there. And this is just a personal thing. Like I'm a highly sensitive person, and it doesn't take a lot for like just all the clamor to get to me. But there's so much kind of learn this, do this, get my free this, come to this webinar, come to this training, and it's overwhelming, and it kind of feeds that I need another qualification. I need to learn this skill before I do this. And again, as I said earlier, for me, it's all about coming back to yourself. It's like, if you don't know who you are in your life, how can you market yourself authentically and know what it is you're actually here to do? I mean, obviously for me, my thing is like, get out, get away from the noise, get some space so you can actually be with yourself and learn what you've already got, what you can already do. And yes, get support with that, absolutely. But, you don't need to have all of this stuff to get started, or to, find what it is you're looking for. Like, there's this materiality in the world that's like, once you've got this, you'll be happy. And, it's a saturated, there are a lot of people who are coaches out there. And it can feel like everybody's a coach sometimes, especially when you are a coach and you're in that, you're friends with a lot of other coaches, like, oh my God, everybody's a coach, and everyone's saying the same thing. And I really believe that, personal development and doing the inner work is so important, and everybody has a different style, and some people are going to work for others and, not for others. So it's, in many ways, it's good that there are so many coaches out there, and it's a case of, find one that works for you. Yeah. Find a style that works for you. And don't be made to feel bad if you don't take someone up on their offer, because it's clearly that you're not courageous enough, or you're I don't know. Yeah
No, that's great. So fantastic. Your story so far in terms of what drove you to make a decision to set up your own business, how you focus on inspiring the busy woman to really achieve and understand who they are through what you've created. The journey of learning through experimentation is inspiring in terms of what you're doing, and the amazing image you've painted of a woman learning to create fire for the first time, how that ignites her life. I thought that was really inspiring in terms of some of the journey you've been on, etc. Yes, the noisiness of the coaching world that drives us mad. It's been a fantastic conversation. One final question before we get to our last round, really. If we were to meet again in 5 years' time, and we're going to look back now on that 5 years, what's happened both professionally and personally for you to consider the next 5 years, that 5 years of being a success?
Oh, I love that question, because it's something I often get my clients to sort of, what's out there? For me, it is, my ultimate dream is to own or be part of land and, a venue where I can host kind of more retreats on a deeper level, both in the wild and also potentially I've got a dream of running Be Wild-ish, which is more of a glamping thing. But for me, I really want to be able to have land to tend that is, I mean, you never own land, but to steward and tend and look after, and to bring that aspect into my retreats as well. I would love to be, having a thriving several cohorts of women on my Be Wild and Be Wilder programs. I would love to have a network of associates working with me that are running stuff. And for me, a big driver is to have, I don't quite know how it works, but like a charitable foundation arm or something that is offering these experiences to women and young people who can't necessarily afford, what I offer. I'm a big believer in getting young people outdoors and doing, mother-daughter, father-daughter kind of work. And that's not me going to be holding that, because that's not my area. But I would love to be supporting. I know so many people who are amazing at doing that stuff, and to be able to sort of support them to do that, and to be offering more stuff to schools and charities and things like that. Having a home for all of that would be, if my business could support that, that would be amazing. And then personally, getting out of the business enough that I can really be doing the bits that I really, really love, and fulfilling my own sense of purpose and getting to go on my adventures, like going off to the Kalahari to hang out with the Sand Bushmen for a couple of weeks, to be able to do that and have my business still running in my absence, to get to go and spend a month completely off in the wilderness, and continue my learning and development. And I have absolutely no desire of running myself ragged from my business. I want a lifestyle that works for me. So that, I know I won't necessarily get there in 5 years, but I will be well on the way by then, hopefully.
That's brilliant. Well, Jen, thank you very much for our conversation today. I've really enjoyed it. So we're into that little final bit now, which is the quick fire round. Okay, let's see if we can get a few short sentences of feedback, because I love your inspiration and how you elaborate on everything you say. So, okay, so here we go then. If you were to go back to your younger you, what advice would you give yourself?
Believe you can be anything you can be, and don't be afraid of failing.
Awesome. Which books would you recommend?
Oh my God. Personal favorites are Wild by Cheryl Strayed. In terms of, oh my God, there's so many. Anything by Brené Brown. I love Soulcraft by Bill Plotkin. Oh my God, there are so many books. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. That's just a few for getting started.
Brilliant. So do you listen to podcasts? And if you do, which ones would you recommend?
Oh, I have to admit, I'm not a massive podcast listener because I'm not generally an auditory person. And when I'm out walking, I like to be listening to the birds and things. But I'd highly recommend this one, obviously. A fabulous woman called Sarah Price has an amazing, whose business is actually making a difference. She has an amazing podcast on people who want purpose and profit in their lives. That's a good one. And anything by Dr. Ranjan Chatterjee is always inspirational and amazing. Yeah, they're the ones off the top of my head.
Do you have any apps on your smartphone that make a difference for you?
Starling Bank, definitely. All of my mobile banking, I do on my phone. Obviously, Facebook. I spend a lot of my business is via Facebook, so having it on my phone makes it really easy. WhatsApp for really connecting with friends and clients. I have the OS Maps app for. I love a good old paper map, but sometimes a virtual version can be very, very handy. But I'm not a massive app user. I kind of resist getting too many on my phone. The weather app can be quite helpful.
And who's had the most influence on you as a business person or leader?
Oh gosh, so many. I think my late coach, Carrie Rose, was incredible. She was the one that believed in me and helped me start bringing this to fruition. My gorgeous friend and mentor, Annie Stoker, who has taught me so much about the inner work. And for me, again, the inner work is so important when you're running a business. Dr. Joanna Martin, who's the founder of One of Many, which is the organization I trained as a coach with and have done lots of work with since. Again, Sarah Price, whose podcast I mentioned, she is incredible and generous and gives so much of her wisdom for free. And then I'd mentioned Kate Wolf as well, who's helps sort of sensitive business owners access their wild voice, and she's been a huge inspiration to me in the past as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. So final question, how can people get hold of you?
Oh, that's an easy one. So follow me on Facebook. So my business is Wildfire Walks. So you can find me on Facebook under Wildfire Walks or Jen Le Marinel, Wildfire Walks. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Those are the two platforms I'm most most active on. There we go. Or my website, www.wildfirewalks.com, and that's got all the news of who I am, what I do, how to book a call with me, dates of retreats and things like that, information about my programs. So if you want to get hold of me directly, that's a good way to find. You can sign up to my newsletter there and things like that. So yeah, but Wildfire Walks, I'm wherever you find me, I'm Wildfire Walks. So you can just search that and I'll come up somewhere, I'm sure.
Oh, well, Jen, thank you very much for this conversation today. It has been inspiring, both your energy, your enthusiasm for what you do, and the excitement that you're going to bring to the world of empowering women is inspirational. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Granger. You're welcome.
Don't forget to take a look at www.bizsmarts.co.uk to access a great range of resources to help you in your scale-up journey. So that's bizsmarts.co.uk, which is bizsmarts.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.